Hi. So there seems to be this key hitch, where the East has this philosophy that we're all one, we all need to be interconnected and work together. The West has this philosophy of individualism. It's up to the individual, we honor the individual. The East is like, well, we look at the whole collective system. And in truth, these are just philosophies. Okay. There's one thing going on. Oneness, just taken as a philosophy, as a political philosophy, leads to what we call communism. Because see, communism, just leads to dirtiness, all right? So then how do we break past just the philosophy of oneness and interconnectedness and whatever, okay? Well, it's actually the honoring of individuals as they are. That leads to greater interconnectedness. It's up to the individual, and it cannot be forced upon them to turn their will towards the highest good. That leads to the greatest harmony. If we try to force individuals to follow a philosophy of oneness, well, we see massive, whatever. A master can find enlightenment in a communist society, but there are certain environments, such as the United States, where the individual is honored, where it's more conducive towards enlightenment. And so while it may look on paper like the United States philosophy of individuality is, anti-enlightenment, it's actually the direct path to enlightenment. Philosophy without, actual tangible results, it's just like, what? It's like the Nazis had a philosophy to make the world perfect. Look what happened. It's just a philosophy. So where's this disconnect happening in people's minds? Well, they get into oneness as a philosophy and then they try to apply it to politics. Okay, it doesn't work. Now, there can be some level of that in some societies. I know taxes can be used productively, blah, 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 whatever. It's the honoring of the individual, letting them fruit and flower freely, that leads to enlightenment. Just like how you let your flower grow in the garden. You don't try to rip open the bud of the flower and force it to contribute to the other flowers in some weird way. Like, hey, flower, open. Now I'm going to steal your pollen and give it to the other ones. That's communism. In reality, communism is a little more corrupt. Usually with communism, there's a leader in charge who wants to take the money for himself or, whatever it may be. I know that, okay? I know there's nuance here. I actually like taxes, by the way. I love taxes. I love taxes. Yeah, please take my money and build my roads. I love that. On a personal level. That's the thing, though. On an individual level, I love that. An individual level. It's interesting. The honoring of the individual. Because it seems at first glance like, well, how would that lead to oneness? We need to consider other people. We must leave it up to the individual when they're ready to fully fruit and flower. When they start to recognize on their own, oh yeah, my life gets better when I help people. That's something only an individual can decide. It's not something that can be, it's impossible to learn a lesson for somebody. You can learn lessons, this is an important axiom. You can learn lessons from somebody, you cannot learn lessons for somebody. To try to force somebody into oneness, my God, how would that even work? The individual has to learn the lesson on their own. It's not something you can enforce via political philosophy or anything like that. That's why the individual is so important. That's why America's, if you look at all the countries, we're pretty freaking harmonious. People like to live here. They live their life to move to America because they're honored as an individual. An important fruit in the garden they are. To try to corrupt that fruit with a personal philosophy to try to control them. It would be like unto if there was a perfect symphony and there was like a kid practicing jujitsu and like some overly forceful adult or something tried to like force their jujitsu to be some weird way. It just doesn't work to try to force somebody to be some way. So if we want interconnectedness, we honor others as individuals, we free them and we allow them to be as they are and we embrace them. This is called forgiveness. Only they can fruit and flower. It cannot be forced. It's like trying to force your flowers to grow extra fast. You try to like force extra water on them. That's like a communist system. They try to like force the people to be like, it just doesn't really work. Now, if the people collectively want a taxation system and it's like by and large what the people want, that's fine. Okay, I love taxes. So this axiom of respecting the individual, and that's ironically what leads to oneness. Freedom of the individual. And so the Eastern people who truly recognize oneness and who have seen it deeply, they write about it in their books and whatnot. Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching, Gautama Buddha, okay, and in the Bhagavad Gita, okay, they write about these things and they see these things. But the people that see the oneness for what it is are not the people making philosophical laws about oneness in those countries. There's a difference between seeing it as it is and having a philosophy about it. Philosophies can be included, and philosophy is a beautiful subject. We just must make sure our philosophies are beautiful and that they are rooted in love, which always honors the individual as they are. Amen.